Item 6 is a presentation from Macomb Community College operating millage proposal for the May 2018 election. Here's President Jim Sawyer. Thank you. Welcome.
Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I appreciate the invitation to join you today. I last had the pleasure of presenting to the commissioners on May 10th. I joined Jim Jacobs just to give you a broad overview of the college. I'm here today to specifically talk about our upcoming millage proposal. This past week, our Board of Trustees approved going before the voters in Macomb County with the...
Mr. Sawyer, can you turn your microphone?
There's a
button on the microphone.
Sorry. Is
Thank
that
you.
better? Okay.
I can hear you now.
Okay, very good. Last week, our Board of Trustees approved going before the voters in Macomb County with the ballot proposal to renew our general operating millage, which expires in 2020. So that's what I'm here to talk with you about today. I wanted to just give you kind of a brief overview of the college, things I had covered back in May, but just as a reminder, we are the largest community college in Michigan, largest grant of associate's degrees, and in the top 3% in the U.S. We've got about 20,000 degree-seeking or academic students in our fall and winter terms. We have another 15,000 students who go through our workforce and continuing education programs and customized training programs. And about 85% of our students are actually Macomb County residents, and our graduates tend to live and continue to work in Macomb County as well once they graduate. The college's revenue really comes from 4 different strands, 3 primary strands and then a small strand. Our overall annual operating budget's around $135 million. And the revenue comes in from tuition, local property taxes, state appropriations, and we have a small amount that comes in through grants or our investment income. And today, the operating millage, obviously for local property taxes, accounts for 26% of our budget. So it's really a major impact on our budget. You can see over the last 16 years, the revenue sources for the college have varied greatly. Really today, from the state, our appropriation from the state continues to be less than we received in real dollars in 2002. And you can see that reflected in the red line. Our property taxes, as would be expected in the recession of 2008-2009, we saw a significant decline in property tax revenue. And at that time is where we saw the increase in the rates that our students pay. Our tuition and fees now account for 43% of our overall revenue. And that's something our Board of Trustees is very cognizant of. We really think it's critical to try to keep an affordable tuition rate for our students. There's a few things that are really critical for the college as we go forward. Number one, we need to continue to have a wide variety of opportunities for our students. We've got over 200 different degree and certificate programs, and those are aligned with high demand career fields. Things like advanced manufacturing, information technology, healthcare, public service institute, which includes police, fire, emergency medical technicians, homeland security. Again, our programs are really designed to try to feed into where there's needs with our area employers. It's critical that we are trying to provide that skilled workforce they need. And it's also important to note that our graduates, students who actually earn an associate's degree, earn on average $11,000 more annually than folks who just have a high school diploma. So the education really does make a difference trying to get to a higher economic status or higher level employment from a wage perspective. Another important aspect for the college is our workforce and continuing education area. And this is where we're really making a difference in the economy as well, because we've trained over a couple thousand people in the last few years for jobs specifically in high-tech advanced manufacturing areas. And these are people who are coming to us for short-term training programs, getting the skills they need, and then going to work. And that it's making a difference obviously for them. It's obviously making a difference for their family, and they're contributing to the economic vitality of the community. So it's something that's very important to our core mission, the workforce training piece. We couldn't do that if we weren't very closely aligned with our employers. We spend a great deal of time trying to make sure we stay connected with them. It's paramount that our training programs meet their needs so that when folks go out in the world of work, they're able to get employed and add value to the employer right away. I talked about the criticality of affordable tuition, and it's something that we pride ourselves on. Our tuition rate right now is $100 a credit hour. It's about a quarter of what a tuition is at the other public universities in the area. Our cost of attendance, which really tries to take into all fees And other aspects of the higher education costs, again, we're a quarter of what they are at the public universities. And that's what the student sees. And that's very important that the college is able to continue to do that, because frankly, some of our students, if our tuition got too high, they simply wouldn't be able to attend. And our students are different than your traditional university student. Our students tend to go part-time. They're usually balancing family, work priorities. These are folks who have very busy lives, and we really provide that conduit for them to get a higher education that enables them to improve their work situation and hopefully provide for their family even better. Another thing that the affordable tuition is very important for is that it enables our students to graduate debt-free. And you hear a lot in the media today about the high cost of higher education, and I would argue that's typically driven by the four-year universities and the cost to attend there. In our case, our students don't accrue a lot of debt, and that enables them to kind of hit the ground running, if you will. You know, when they graduate, they don't have large student loans that impact their ability to buy homes or ability to impact vehicles. So they're able to contribute to our economy right away, as opposed to having to pay back their student loans. So, you know, the operating millage is paramount to helping us keep that tuition affordable. The millage rate we're actually asking for is 1.464, which is the same millage rate that was approved by voters in the 2000 election. That millage runs from 2000 to 2020. We're going out in 2018 from a long-term planning perspective. We want to know where we stand. We feel it's prudent to do that ahead of time. The college has always been very fiscally responsible. It's been run very well over the years. I'm just the most recent person to take over that charge, but it's been well run by Dr. Lorenzo and Dr. Jacobs historically. Consequently, we are one of the lowest, we have one of the lowest millage rates in the state. We're the third lowest in the state, yet we're the largest college and continue to be one of the more innovative colleges in the state as well. So again, this was the rate that was approved in 2000. When we talk about the other aspect besides the higher education piece that we provide to our residents in the community, opportunities through the cultural center or through our performing arts center, there's also a huge economic impact that the college provides. When we look at a dollar paid in taxes has a value in $5. That's based on the increased incomes our students will see, increased business productivity, as well as offsetting some of those public funded service costs that would be required if people weren't educated and prepared for those high skill jobs. From a student perspective, for every dollar they spend with us, they see a return of $3.50 in annual earnings. So that's an immediate impact for them. We're also just a big player in the whole Macomb County economy. $992 million is attributed to the college or our students. And finally, out of every 26 jobs, one of those jobs is related to Macomb County and the activities of the college or our students. So in summary, you know, this is a major part of our budget. It's 26% of our budget. It impacts what we do every single day. It's largely a renewal, again, of what was been approved back in 2020. And I'm be happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Thank you. Questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Carabelli. Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Doc. Couple of questions so I can understand this. I was looking at your graph that you had on the property taxes,
Okay?
and when the bubble, or whatever we want to call the downturn, it looks like the property taxes just did a little dip, and then all of a sudden in say 12 to 17, it kind of stayed flat, and it's not tailoring back, it's not going back up. And I'm just looking at our own taxes that we take here at the county. We've had a slight increase now. The property values and everything are going back up, and it's not being depicted in here. I'm just wondering if that graph is just a little off, or
No, I mean, I think the you know, with the way the property taxes are increasing, that's not reflected in the millage rate that we're collecting per se. So one of the things that impacts our millage rate is we're subject to something called the Headley Amendment.
Yes.
So when the property taxes increase more than the rate of inflation, or 5%, then they adjust the millage rate. So that's had some impact on the actual revenue we're collecting as well.
okay, then my question is, you're going up, what is that, 0.06? 0.06?
The restoration piece is 0.0568, correct, 0.06.
My question is, like schools can only do local millages for brick and mortar technology. Are community colleges outside of that loop? They can do it for whatever they,
Correct. This is our general operating millage. So this covers technology is certainly part of this, but also, other operational expenses associated with the college. That's correct.
so my question is that I've seen that at the same time that the property taxes went down, what the students were paying went up, obviously. Is this not going to change anything that the student's paying? Is this going to continue it straight out? And then it's just your costs are increasing, even though the property values are going back up for operating the school?
Yeah, well, I mean, we expect property taxes probably to continue to go up, but they're going to go up at that modified rate. They're not going to bounce back, obviously, to where they were, say, 2004, 2005 timeframe. We've not had our board has not debated tuition yet this year, but certainly, the operating expenses and tuition are all tied. Again, it's a three-piece part of the puzzle when it comes to our overall operating expenses between the state appropriations, which we don't know that as well, the millage property taxes, as well as the tuition and fees.
Okay, and then the last question I have for you is, you mentioned that you're the lowest millage amongst,
Third lowest millage in the state.
do all community colleges have local millages?
Yes.
They do? Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To follow up on a few of the things that Commissioner Carabelli brought up. First, you're not bonding for this. This is an operating millage.
Correct.
So I think that's what may be confusing. You can't buy brick and mortar stuff when you bond, but you can do it through an operating millage.
Thank you for the clarification, yes.
So, and the other note is, even though Headley limits how fast you can reclaim some recovering property values, you can still get that 5%. You're still allowed to recover a percentage of it every year. You just can't get all of it. So if property values go up 10%, you're not going to collect 10% more in property taxes.
Correct.
You're going to collect 5% more in property taxes, what the Headley allows. So that still should show over the last 3-4 years that blue line going up as you recover part of those increases.
Well, it goes by I believe it's the rate of inflation or 5%.
Yeah,
So it doesn't
so-
go up 5, it's the rate. And
No, I think
the rate of
you're
inflation is very
correct.
modest.
You're correct. So it should be going up somewhat.
Yeah, somewhat.
Okay, so and finally,
But again, let me just clarify if I could. This is a percentage of our overall operating budget is why you don't see that percentage specifically going up. While the revenue might be going up a little bit, it's, it's
as a
relatively
percent of
underfunded.
your overall budget, I see what you're
Correct.
saying. I see what you're saying. So another question I have is, if the existing millage expires in 2020, why does the new one start in 2018?
Well, that would supplant it wouldn't be double. We've consciously gone out a couple of years early because we want to have, from a long-term planning perspective, we need to know where we stand. So we feel it would be disingenuous to wait all the way until 2020 to ask the voters for a millage at that point, because we could be left with a period of time of no millage.
So, but it says for a period of 20 years, 2018 to 238.
Correct.
So you'd begin collecting this millage rate in 2018.
Yes.
But the existing operating millage expires in 220, so you're not double collecting
We are
during
not
that 2
double
years.
collecting. Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that wasn't, it's hard to understand that looking at this, but
I appreciate that feedback. I'll try to clarify my messaging to make that point clear.
Okay.
Just so you know, this is probably the first of several of these presentations I anticipate doing, so any sort of that feedback I appreciate, frankly.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Commissioner Sawyer.
Yeah, I just want to tell you, I told you privately, I'll say it publicly. My grandson is in the nursing program, and he's got a bunch of his buddies in other nursing programs. They compare, and he says this is top notch. Got a
Thank you,
great
Commissioner.
program over there.
Thank you. I appreciate hearing that. It's very
Thank
nice
you.
to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Dr. Brewer. I'm looking at the numbers again, the revenue sources over the 16-year history. And I'm looking at, and I guess my question is, the costs that are being, that are involved here, what are these costs? I mean, is it going to, I got to believe some of this remains constant, so is the cost going to the teachers? Is the cost going to books? Where's the cost that you're looking for? And I'm looking at from 2008, tuition costs have just really blown out of the sky here.
Well, you know, the budget's remained either as flat or decreased over the last several years. We've had several budget reductions just in response to the economic challenges we've had. But, you know, when you think about utilities and books, and we have had some modest salary increases as well. Again, it's the total general operating expense, but, you know, costs continue to rise, and that's really what's reflected there. The transition, why you see the big spike in tuition and fees, is directly related to the fact that we were collecting less property tax revenue and less state appropriations.
Dr. Brewer, is there somewhere you can come up with numbers about what goes where and how much of it goes? Example being what goes towards the teachers, what goes towards you. I mean, something other than, I'm looking at a graph and that's all I'm looking at.
Well,
I don't see
of the
numbers.
$135 million, I can tell you 77% is related to personnel expenses in some way, shape, or form. Not all salaries, but, you know, benefits and pensions and things like that.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. So
77% of the $135 million,
it's gone to personnel expenses.
personnel expenses.
Okay, that answered my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
On that subject of personnel expenses, the county's addressing long-term unfunded medical liabilities. What's the situation with the college and those unfunded liabilities many communities are facing?
Yeah, currently we don't have an unfunded liability situation, but with the GASB, I forget the number, 85 I think it was, don't quote me on that, but with the last GASB ruling where we had to put the pensions on our balance sheet as well, you know, while we're not in a deficit position, we're getting close.
Okay, so you're watching that.
Correct.
But it's
correct.
not a liability.
But we don't have an unfunded liability at this stage.
All right, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Smith. Chairman Smith.
Thank you. Jim, thank you for coming here and
My pleasure.
presenting to us today. We really appreciate that. Most of my questions were asked and answered, but I would say that just from a pure business perspective and needing to know how your funds are going to continue to come in, it does make sense to me, assuming that, not assuming, but hearing that we're not doubling up on them for 2
correct.
years if it passes, but, you know, to not put yourself in the position where at the end of this vote, you don't have this money anymore, and then what do we do then? And so
Correct.
it takes a lot of unnecessary planning time out of the mix by not having to worry about something like that. So I see the sense in it, and again, thanks for coming out here.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you. Real quick, and you don't have to answer this, we can talk offline, but every 5 to 7 years, there's a talk of a four-year university. Is there any discussions on that? And again, I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, you're not putting me on the spot. I mean, there's no current conversations relative to us transitioning to a four-year university. As you may or may not be aware, the Community College Act prohibits, we can't just offer baccalaureate degrees. There's 4 areas in which we could offer baccalaureate degrees if we so chose: culinary arts, cement technology, energy production, and maritime technology, Maritime Academy. The Cement and Maritime Academy are very special programs. Cement, there's a big plant in Alpena that was really put there for them. The Maritime is specifically for Northwest Michigan College. I think there's only 6 in the country that do that. As far as the culinary or energy production, we've not seen a demand from area employers. That's the type of thing we listen to, and if there's a need expressed, we would have to evaluate that. But at this point, we're not hearing that, and as far as the 4-year overall, we're prohibited from even offering them in the other disciplines. It may not have been the Community College Act, I'm not sure what act it is, but there's whatever governs the higher education.
Well, the college is set up, has negated the need for a four-year university on how it's been set up.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. I should have elaborated on that. I mean, that's really the university center is really our answer to that. We currently have 12 universities who are providing about 80 programs on our center campus that are, and these range from bachelor's degree programs to master's programs to doctoral programs. So Macomb residents can finish their 4-year degree here in Macomb County. And we work very diligently at trying to foster those relationships. You know, transfer is a very important consideration for many of our students, so we try to make the best transfer agreements we can so they can transfer and take all their credits with them as they go on to our university partners.
Yeah. My sons graduated Macomb to Walsh. They all graduate degrees. They're doing very well for themselves, thanks to Macomb Community College, and they're debt-free.
That's nice to hear.
It is good to hear. Yeah, yeah, for sure. They're not all that way, unfortunately. Got one little girl on the west side of the state, but Robert Majek, Commissioner Majek, you're up.
Thanks for coming here, Professor Sawyer.
Sure.
So did the Board of Trustees already approve this language for?
Correct. At our board meeting last week.
Okay. And another question is, the state aid has gone down a lot. Which specific part of the state aid, or what line item is that? Where does that come from the state?
I'm not sure.
Is that revenue sharing, or?
There's, I can't answer
No?
that question. I'm not sure. There is a allocation to all the community colleges.
Right.
And it's a one line item to all the community colleges.
Okay. The point I'm trying to make is Macomb Community College, along with Macomb County government, cities and municipalities have, over a 20-year period, had a lot less money from the state. The state is one of the worst. Michigan State government is one of the worst in the whole country when it comes back funding to our local communities, including Macomb Community College. One other question I have, and doesn't really pertain to this ballot issue here, is that I have some information here about wage distribution of Macomb County workers that I'm very concerned about, and I'm wondering if it gets lost out in the shuffle. And that's the fact that we have 135,000 people in Macomb County, workers in Macomb, making $12 or less per hour, which is like 36.5% of the entire workforce. And I'm wondering, are you familiar with that? Or what are we missing? It seems like when I go to these luncheons, business luncheons, economic forecast by Professor Jacobs, seems like we talk about all the good stuff, which is good, in engineering and the Fortune 500 companies that we have here. But when I see a number like this, that's pretty concerning to me. And how do we identify those folks? And do we have a lot of those folks going into college? Would you care to comment on that?
Well, to be honest, that's something we try to address every day. I mean, I think what that reflects is the skills gap in general that we have, where, the higher paying jobs require a higher level of skill or education. And it's getting folks into those programs and having folks who are earning those wages understanding that's the path that it takes. And we're very diligently trying to improve that. I mean, we've launched a program called Guided Pathways at the college, where we try to help students understand their career goals early on and try to steer them into those paths to evaluate whether that's a career they're interested in, and try to steer them to those high pay, high demand jobs. That's particularly true when you take a field like IT. It's not like you can just transition from a low paying job and to get an IT job where you're going to make a lot of money. You've got to go through a significant amount of training before you're prepared to do that. And it's our job to try to help do that.
Thank you.
If I could just comment, you kind of were going down this path. If we compare the cumulative losses from the state aid, I shouldn't say losses. This is less than was appropriated, if you will, from 2002 till now. Compared using 2002 as the basis year, it's about roughly $40 million.
That's been lost to Macomb Community College.
Every year, taking into account every year, comparing every year back to the year 2002.
That is a serious amount of money, and that is, we have problems in the state of Michigan. Think about how much Macomb County has lost. I don't know the numbers. Maybe if we had our finance director, we would know that City of Sterling Heights has lost out on a tremendous amount of money. And until Lansing and the state government fixes the structural problems, I guess that's going to continue. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for recognizing me again. Just a quick follow-up question on Chair Brown's thoughts on the legacy costs and so forth. Has the college switched over, to defined, contribution retirement plans, or are people still being able to enroll in the defined benefit retirement plans?
People are still able to enroll in the state MIPSERS program. That's still an option. We've had a defined contribution program for many years that a lot of employees have registered in. So everyone's not in the MIPSERS program. And I can't tell you off the top of my head what the percentage is.
Do you know off the top of your head whether the recent reform at the state level dealing with public school teacher retirement packages, they changed the way the programs are offered to create more of an incentive for folks to, get into the defined contribution plans. Does that affect the community college, or is that just?
That doesn't affect the community college, but some of those same principles affect us in terms of having a plan that's more portable. If it's not in the Mixers program, it's at the college, we operate through TI-CREF, and the college makes a contribution, but it's the personal account that the person has, as opposed to being tied to the state.
Yeah, so you're not sure what percentage of people opt for the defined contribution or the defined benefit then?
Correct, not off the top of my head.
Okay, has there been a reason that you're aware of that the college hasn't just closed off the, defined benefit program like the county has and like the state has and like a great majority now of government entities have?
Yeah, no, I don't, it's not something that we've talked about. Again, we've given that both options to folks. The state plan isn't nearly as attractive as it once was, as I'm sure you're probably aware. So it's not like the old days where everything was paid and healthcare was covered and so forth. So I can tell you, this is anecdotal, but I know folks are also going for the other defined contribution plan too, that are joining the college.
Yeah, so is there any plan to shut down the old defined benefit program and require everyone to join the defined contribution, or?
We have not discussed that at this point.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Commissioner Sawyer.
One question I got for you, Jim. How's your Wayne State program coming along? I go down 12 Mile every day, or almost every day, and I see that big Wayne State, and I know it's attached to the college. How's it going?
It's going very well. Specifically over there, we do engineering technology programs, supply chain management, and IT programs. And we're seeing more and more students taking advantage of having them so closely located to us.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else? There's no one else on the list. Need a motion to receive and file this presentation. Moved by Commissioner Leonetti, supported by Commissioner Tocco. All those please vote.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice seeing you.